I dedicate this to Milton right here. Moments before I gave this presentation, he gave me a little pep talk about getting over giving performance anxiety, giving talks and stuff like that. This is for you, man.
Well, I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you. So, let's see. The talk that I'll be giving today is some ongoing research that I'm working on. Any commentary, criticism that you want to proffer at the end of the talk, I will gladly accept it. This is by no means in final draft form. And, well, away we go. It's entitled Reflections upon Kant's Ethical Argument for the Existence of God and Immortality. So, Kant claims the interests of reason concern the following triumvirate of questions. The first, what can I know? Kant believes he's determined that speculation can reveal nothing about the nature of God. He does this especially in the work of pure reason. The second question, what are to do? He deals with his ethics, which some of my students here are quite familiar with. We just got done covering Kant in our class, where he tells us what we ought to do. And the third question that he deals with is in pure reason again, and in his book on religion, is what may I hope? This question sets up the practical proofs for God and the immortality of the soul. This paper will focus on two important arguments in Kant's moral religion. First, I've entitled Argument 1A, or the practical proof for God and immortality. The second is Argument 1B, which I've entitled Kant's Perfect God. So the thesis that will direct this discussion is as follows. For Kant's moral religion to actually obtain, it must first pass through two stages. The postulates of God and immortality must be shown to follow from merely acting out of a sense of duty, and then it must be shown that God postulated is the God held in common conception. It is argued in this paper that as it stands now, Kant cannot establish the postulate of God, because it is based on a need of reason not shared by all, and there appear to be other reasonable conceptions of the highest good. However, even if the postulates could be defended, then the Kantian would have to contend with four objections raised to the type of God Kant believes he has defended. There appears to be little reason to think that Kant's God is a perfect God, and if not a perfect God, then it is not really a God at all. So, Argument 1A, the practical proof for God and immortality. Premise 1. Now, this may seem a little unwieldy. This is not lifted from Kant. This is my own construction. Perhaps it could be put a little bit more elegantly, but it is what it is. So, Premise 1. Morality is based on the conception of free human beings who, via their reason, bind themselves to unconditional laws. Premise 2. There is no need for there to be a supreme lawgiver to make man recognize his duty. Premise 3. The only incentive for acting morally is love for the law itself. Premise 4. However, it is not a matter of indifference to reason what the result of this right conduct leads to. Premise 5. Reason conceives that all rational beings ought to unite in a kingdom of enduring hearts that freely submit to the moral law. Premise 6. But these reasonable beings, if not happy, do not experience the complete good. And the complete good cannot simply be the distribution of happiness to those that do not employ reason to cultivate virtue. Premise 7. This leads to the idea that happiness ought to be made proportional to the duties we obey solely out of respect for law. In Premise 8, happiness is not guaranteed in the phenomenal world because not everyone chooses to be moral, and there are obstacles to happiness, such as suffering and ruinous impulses. Premise 9, in order for happiness to be made proportionate to virtue, we must assume a higher and holier power capable of uniting the two elements in the highest good, our obedience with happiness. Thus, morality inevitably leads to religion. Specifically, we need to postulate the immortality of the soul so that we have enough time to make ourselves deserving of happiness. And we need to postulate God, who is the standard of goodness that judiciously distributes happiness to those virtuous souls. Now, this is the best thing about this conference. Free swag. It's really handy. I have 6 concerns with this argument. 4 of the 6 I don't believe to be fatal. 2 of the 6 are, I believe, to be sort of deeply problematic for Kant's project. And I've put an asterisk by the concerns that I think to be deeply problematic. It's concerns 2 and 3. But I'll go through them all. The first, I asked myself, is there really no need for a supreme lawgiver in Kantian ethics, as said so in premises 2 and 3? We talked about this in class, right? Kant believed his rationally coherent ethical theory to stand apart from a religious foundation. However, he cannot explain why man is interested in being moral in the first place. And this leaves open the possibility of a nuanced divine command theory that could salvage Kant's thinking. Now, I don't have time to go into that. I propose that as a prospect for future research. But if you read the end of the groundwork, he essentially gives up on answering what man's moral interest is. You can't resort to happiness or freedom, anything like that, because then you would be enslaved to that idea. But the second concern I do think is quite troubling. I asked, does our reason really have a stake in the outcome of moral action, as stated in premise 4? Well, the proof only works if there is a universal need of reason that irresistibly leads us to the conclusion that happiness ought to be made proportionate to virtue. If not here, then in another realm by God. It is not obvious that everyone has this need, or if everyone feels the need and pinch upon them to the same degree. This makes the proof radically contingent upon the varying needs of individuals. It will be convincing for some and not for others. Proof should work necessarily and universally. It shouldn't, it's going to be convincing. It should be convincing for all of humanity. And the block to accepting it shouldn't be something out of ignorance or something like that. You should just be able to see the logic with the noetic rays of your mind. So it seems like suppressing the need would be a less philosophically dicey move than ultimately postulating God and immortality. Rather than sort of to play up that we need to believe in God and immortality, why not downplay it? I mean, obviously, this is possible because there are many secular Kantians who don't acknowledge God at all. So, my third concern, which I also find to be quite troubling. Could the complete good be conceptualized differently? And this is sort of unraveled in premises 5 through 9. Kant assumes the only rational conception of the highest good is happiness distributed in accordance with virtue. However, it is not immediately apparent that this is the only rational conception available. What about these canons? Those who coincidentally conform their will to the moral law are ensured happiness. Is there anything deeply irrational about that? What if God set it up that way? What about this? Those who acted out of instinct and attained a good outcome can be counted amongst the happy and blessed. Those who just sort of pathologically conditioned towards the good. Is God not going to have mercy on them? That seems kind of messed up. Or, now this might be the most controversial scenario. Is it even irrational to think that everyone will be perfected one day? Now, there are some strains of Christians and other people of other denominations that think there is no hell. And that through a series of tasks, maybe purgatory or something like that, you can repay your debt and perhaps enjoy the beatific vision one day. Now, some people we think are consigned to hell and should be tortured and tormented for all eternity. Hitler, Osama bin Laden, Pol Pot, whoever you want to name. So I understand that this is not a controversial thing to say. And I don't necessarily believe it, but the point is this. All these competing conceptions of the highest good still require the postulates of God and immortality. But it does highlight how little we can actually know about what goes on in this realm, if such a realm exists. Kant seems to violate his own caution when he speculates about the affairs of the numerological realm. Right? We can't know God speculatively because there are limits to our cognitive apparatus ascertaining that which lies beyond in the numerological realm. Why does he feel like it's okay to talk about what happens after we die? Why is it okay here and not elsewhere? My fourth concern, how are the postulates of God and immortality not supposed to corrupt our motives for acting morally? Now this right here is what causes a lot of people to dismiss Kant out of hand, but I don't think it should. Kant's postulates are often viewed as non-starters, for how is it possible to be morally good, acting purely out of reverence for the moral law, while simultaneously holding that God distributes happiness in accordance with virtue? This objection can probably be skirted if the idea of cognitive dissonance has any currency for us. This is an idea that was suggested to me by a student that I had last semester named Sarah Coakley. Essentially, belief in God and rewards occupies a non-influential area of mental space that does not affect our sense of performing duty. So, okay, I believe in God, right? I do. But then I don't go out and think about how I should treat other people by first consulting my belief system. I still feel this call of duty detached from the beliefs that I hold. They don't necessarily need to be inextricably linked. All right. Part 2, argument 1b, Kant's perfect God. Here's the argument. Speculative theology does not provide us with evidence for the objective reality of a sole, perfect, and rational first cause. Premise 2, if we make a stand on moral unity being one of the universe's necessary laws, then positing a supreme being is inevitable. Premise 3, there can be only one will that unifies the multiplicity of moral ends. Premise 4, this will is omnipotent, for all of nature and morality are subject to it. Premise 5, this will is omniscient because it penetrates the secret feelings of all rational beings. Premise 6, this will is omnipresent to supply every necessity to which the highest will of the world may give rise. Premise 7, this will is eternal because the harmony between liberty and nature never fails. Thus, only the practical argument can provide us sole, perfect, and rational God that we seek. I have 4 objections to this. 3 I think are quite disarming. The first 2 and the last. The third, I think maybe he overreaches a little, but it's not deeply problematic. So, my first question. Does Kant's practical argument lead to the conclusion that there is but one God? A la Hume, why must we infer there is but one God unifying the multiplicity of moral ends? Perhaps there could be several. Just as in, people who critique the teleological argument, or arguments from design, so there can't be, we can equally assume that there could be one God or a pantheon of gods assembling all of this chaos into some sort of organized system. Concern 2. Is Kant's God really omnipotent? As that is demonstrated in premise 4. It is an awesome feat if God can unite morality and nature. However, is it fair to think of Kant's God as omnipotent if he is confined to the numenological realm and cannot reach the natural order? Kant does not allow for God to do the miraculous. And I'm not even sure Kant believes in Christ, even though he talks about him and Christianity as being the consummate religion. At least not him being sort of a divine incarnation. Because this would sort of, he has a whole article about miracles and why it's an impossibility and actually how it goes against God. But I wonder, since God is now involved in our world, we can't break that order. How can he be omnipotent then? The third concern, is Kant's God really omniscient? I will confess that God's ability, if Kant's argument works, God's ability to penetrate the secret sentiments of the human heart of all rational agents, is a profound special insight. But to say that this leads necessarily to omniscience might be a little hasty, for it seems that Kant would have to establish, 1, that there is a future, and 2, that God necessarily knows that future. But Kant really can't speculate about that. There could be a couple scenarios. There could be a future and God doesn't know it, which would be deeply problematic for other reasons, the divine attributes. There could be a future and God knows it, and then, could there be morality? It seems like the only option available for him is to determine that there is no future and God knows everything else. But he hasn't given us that, or at least not to my knowledge. So, omniscience is probably going too far. So the fourth concern, is Kant's God really omnipotent? God seems to be everywhere, matching up happiness to virtue when we pass. However, where is he when we are alive? How can he be omnipresent if Kant won't allow for him to have a role in the natural world? So this leads me to my conclusion. Given my analysis of argument 1a from part 1, it appears my second and third concerns are the most troubling for Kant's practical proof of the divine. However, even if those concerns can be overcome, then I've given 4 reasons in part 2 to think that God, Kant proves, in argument 1b from part 2, is not God as he is traditionally defined, and therefore not God. Kant may have proved something, but not God with a capital G. Thank you.